It's Monday, July 27th at 9 o'clock in the morning, and the dogs and I have come over to California Road. This could be a mistake based on the fact that this is one of the worst areas typically for deer flies in mid to late summer. So we could be in for it. I didn't know we were coming here when I left. That's why I'm not really dressed for bugs either. So far though, they're not too bad. Well, right off the bat, I can say that the deer flies are fairly heavy. Zoe's probably got about 20 of them around her. She really attracts them, being a black dog. They really like the dark colorations. I've had a few nips on my leg already. Once we get up here further, we'll get a better judgment of how many or how bad they're going to be. Well, as I suspected, the deer flies are getting worse as we go along the road here, but they're not too horrible. I've seen far worse, and I can walk along without getting too bitten up. The dogs seem to be okay as well, so we'll keep going. I think there generally is a lesser abundance of deer flies this year for whatever reason, probably because of the drought that we had last year is my suspicion, but just stopped by this little marsh here, and now we're getting a double whammy. We've got mosquitoes attacking us too, which I hadn't seen up until that point, but quite a few of them there. They can actually drive me more crazy than deer flies at times if you get them in a heavy enough dose. They just attack you and bite you before you can even move. Not to go on about the bugs, but I often think back to a time when, as a young kid, my father and I almost got lost in one of the Northern Ontario provincial parks. And we had our old Dalmatian with us, and we were walking along on this trail, which was supposed to be a relatively short trail, but somehow we got off of it onto another trail. And the sun was going down and the mosquitoes were coming out in full force. And we had this old dog with us that eventually I started to carry, because she was really not in great shape at that stage of her life. And luckily, we happened to meet a jogger on the trail, and he was knowledgeable enough to get us back on the right track. So we eventually got back to the main area of the park where we had started. If you're trapped out in a wilderness area at night in prime mosquito or deer fly season, you're going to be in a world of discomfort. I'm determined to get to our normal place, which is 4 kilometers up this road. Just the small bridge where we typically go to and turn around. I'm doing eBird as I go, so I want to maintain that distance that I normally walk up here. These are the fragrant white water lilies that are dominating through this marsh. Some little burr reeds in bloom down here. Here's some arrowhead in bloom. Keep thinking I'll see a black bear roaming on those rocky shores over there one day, but never do. There's a nice deer fly welt already on me. Button bush in bloom here. Button bush. Okay, we've reached the little bridge at the 4 kilometer mark since we started, and this is where we'll head back. It's been a nice walk, except for the bugs. Quite a scenic little road with all the marshes and swamps you go by. Hello, Mr. Catbird. What do you say today? I noticed this new gate and a bit of fencing as we walk north along the road. There's something here I'd like to discuss. You can see the bottoms of these cedar poles have been charred, and that's by no accident. This apparently helps prevent rotting of the lower portion of the pole that's put into the ground and the area immediately above the ground. I believe they just go over the ends of the post with a blowtorch, making sure it doesn't catch on fire, of course. Just let it burn the upper layer of the post. So if you're thinking of putting a fence in or cedar posts into the ground, you might want to think about charring them first. It's getting sunnier as we go along on the walk. It was quite cloudy on the way up, but the sun's been breaking through fairly frequently on the way back. And the flies haven't really gotten worse, surprisingly. In fact, they seem to be less annoying now than they were on the way up. Okay, it's 11:20 and we're finished our walk here on California Road for today. Hope you enjoyed that walk. It was actually quite a nice walk other than the bugs, but they lessened up on the way back for some reason. Not sure why. Didn't seem to be nearly as many or many biting, so that was a good turn of events because they were starting to get a little bit annoying on the way up. Quite a pretty walk. I like to do it every so often. There's not a lot to see other than the marsh openings and things. There's not a lot of scenery along the way, but still pleasant and pretty, and you can get some interesting wildlife here at certain times of the year. Midsummer isn't really the best time. The best time would be spring for sure.